The day looked perfect from the outside. The sun was soft, not too bright, and a light breeze moved the white curtains around the garden. Guests sat in neat rows of white chairs. Soft music played in the background. People were smiling, taking pictures, fixing their clothes as they waited for the bride to appear. The bride, Laila, stood behind the garden gate, holding a bouquet of white and pink flowers. Her hands were shaking a little. Her best friend fixed the veil on her hair and whispered, "You look beautiful. He is going to cry when he sees you." Laila smiled nervously. For a moment she closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She had waited for this day for years. She met her future husband, Daniel, at a small coffee shop when she was still at university. He was the quiet man who always sat in the same corner with his books. She was the girl who talked too much and laughed too loud. Somehow they fit together. They had been through many things. Money problems, job changes, late-night arguments, and long-distance months. But they always came back to each other. To Laila, this wedding meant safety. It meant she was finally home. The music changed to the wedding march. The gate opened. Everyone stood up. Laila walked slowly down the aisle on her father's arm. Her father squeezed her hand and whispered, "If you ever change your mind, we can run away now." She laughed softly, thinking he was just being funny. She did not know those words would later stay in her mind like an echo. At the end of the aisle, Daniel waited in a dark suit, looking nervous but happy. When he saw her, his eyes softened and he wiped a small tear quickly, as if he did not want anyone to see. The ceremony went smoothly. They said their vows, exchanged rings, and kissed while everyone clapped and cheered. Cameras flashed. People shouted, "Congratulations!" and "You two are perfect together." After the ceremony, guests moved to the reception area. There were fairy lights hanging between trees, round tables with white tablecloths and soft candles in the middle. The air smelled like flowers and food. Children ran around playing and laughing. Older relatives sat together, talking about how fast time had passed. Laila felt light, almost floating. She looked at her ring again and again like she had to make sure it was real. Daniel hugged her from behind and whispered in her ear, "We made it." Soon it was time for the first dance. The DJ asked everyone to gather around the dance floor. The lights dimmed a little. A romantic song started to play, low and sweet. Laila stood in the center, fixing her dress, waiting for her husband to join her. But instead of walking straight to her, Daniel walked to the DJ and asked for the microphone. The room grew quieter. People watched with curious smiles. They thought he was going to make a cute speech, maybe something funny about how he first met his wife. Daniel cleared his throat. His hand trembled slightly as he held the microphone. He looked at the guests, then at Laila. His eyes were strange, soft, but also heavy, like he was carrying something inside. "In front of everyone here," he began, "I want to say something." Laila felt her heart beat faster. She smiled, expecting sweet words about their love story. Daniel took a breath and said slowly, clearly, "This dance is for the woman I've loved for 10 years. The room went silent. Some guests smiled wider, thinking he meant his new wife, his longtime girlfriend. A few people clapped softly. But then Daniel did something that froze Laila where she stood. He stepped off the small stage, walked right past his bride in the center of the dance floor, and kept going. Laila turned her head, confused, watching him move through the crowd. He stopped in front of someone else, and as he held out his hand to that person, people began to whisper, phones started to lift, and Laila's smile slowly disappeared from her face. For a second, nobody moved. The music kept playing softly in the background, but it felt far away, like it was coming from another world. Laila stood in the center of the dance floor, still holding her bouquet, her eyes fixed on Daniel's back as he walked away from her. He stopped in front of a woman sitting at one of the front tables. It was Laila's younger sister, Hannah. Hannah's eyes were wide and confused. She looked from Daniel to Laila and back again as if she also did not understand what was happening. She placed a hand on her chest, shaking her head slightly, mouthing something that looked like, "Me?" Daniel nodded once and held out his hand. "I said," he repeated, voice low but clear enough for everyone near the dance floor to hear. "This dance is for the woman I've loved for 10 years. A sharp, nervous laugh escaped from someone in the crowd. A few people smiled, thinking it was some kind of joke, maybe part of a surprise. But Hannah didn't laugh. Her face turned pale. Slowly, almost unwillingly, she stood up. Her chair made a small scraping sound on the floor that seemed too loud in the quiet room. Laila felt her stomach twist. She tried to tell herself there was a simple reason. Maybe he was trying to honor her sister for supporting them. Maybe he wanted to thank Hana for helping plan the wedding. Maybe. But the sentence repeated in her head. The woman I've loved for 10 years loved, not the woman who helped, not the woman I'm grateful for, not my dear sister-in-law. Loved. Hana placed her hand in Daniel's. The guests around them moved their chairs back to make space. Someone whispered, "What is going on?" Another voice replied, "Maybe they grew up together. Maybe he's just being sweet." Layla's mother stood up halfway, then sank back into her chair, her eyes jumping between her two daughters. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Layla's father stayed seated, his hands locked together, his face unreadable. The DJ, unsure what to do, turned the music a little louder and changed the song to something softer, as if that could smooth out the tension. Daniel led Hana to the center of the dance floor, the place where Laila was supposed to be. For a moment, Laila thought about walking off, about dropping the bouquet and running to the bathroom. But her legs refused to move. She stood frozen, just a few steps away from them, like someone trapped inside a bad dream. The dance began. Daniel placed one hand on Hana's waist and held her other hand gently. Hana kept her eyes down, not looking directly at anyone, especially not at Laila. Her body was stiff, uncomfortable. She did not look like a woman enjoying a romantic moment. She looked like someone standing too close to a fire. The guests watched with mixed expressions. Some looked confused. Some looked entertained, like they were watching a complicated scene in a drama. A few took out their phones and started recording, thinking, "This will go viral." Layla's cheeks burned. She could actually feel the heat rise up to her ears. She looked around, searching for one friendly face that could tell her this was fine, this was normal, that she was overthinking. But even the children had stopped running and were staring. Her best friend stepped close and whispered, "Do you want to get out of here? I can take you to the back for a minute." Laila shook her head slowly. "No," she whispered back. "I want to know what this is." The song went on. At one point, Daniel said something to Hana that made her bite her lip and blink quickly, like she was holding back tears. He brushed a tear from her cheek with his thumb. That simple touch felt like a slap to Layla's heart. Finally, the song ended. The guests clapped, but it was a strange, weak clapping, with more questions than joy. Daniel let go of Hana's hand, but didn't step away immediately. For a second, they stood close, faces turned to each other. Laila couldn't hear their words, but she saw Hana whisper something and Daniel nod. Then, as if nothing unusual had happened, Daniel turned back to the crowd with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Now," he said lightly, "let's celebrate." The music changed again, louder now, and people started to move, but the mood was different. There was a tension in the air, like a crack in glass that everyone could see but no one wanted to touch. Hana walked quickly past Laila without looking up. Laila almost reached out to stop her, to ask, "What was that?" But she pulled her hand back at the last second. Her chest felt tight, her throat dry. Her father finally came to stand beside her. "You okay?" he asked quietly. Laila forced a small smile. "Of course," she lied. "It's just strange." Her father looked at her for a long moment, his eyes heavy with something she could not read. Then he said, "Enjoy the night. We'll talk later." Those words stayed in her mind. We'll talk later. Why later? Why not now? As the party continued around her with fake laughter and careful smiles, Laila knew one thing for sure. She was not going to let this night end without answers. The party slowly came to an end. Guests hugged the couple, gave quick blessings, and walked out with small gift bags in their hands. Some of them still looked confused. A few whispered to each other as they passed Laila, "I can't believe he danced with the sister. Maybe there's a story we don't know." Laila smiled politely at everyone, but inside she felt tired and hollow. Her cheeks hurt from forcing a smile. When the last guests left, the garden became quiet. Only the sound of workers clearing plates and folding chairs stayed in the air. The fairy light still glowed softly, but the magic of the night was gone. Daniel came toward her, loosening his tie. "Finally," he said, trying to sound light, "we survived our own wedding. Laila looked at him carefully. "Can we talk?" she asked. "Of course," he replied, his smile fading a little. They went to a small room beside the hall, the one the venue staff called the bridal room. It had a big mirror, a sofa, and a table full of half-empty water bottles and makeup items. When the door closed, the noises from outside became a dull murmur. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Laila set her bouquet down and took off her veil. She looked at her own reflection in the mirror. Her makeup was still perfect, but her eyes were different, tired, unsure. She turned to him. "Why did you say that?" she asked quietly. "Why did you say the dance was for the woman you've loved for 10 years? And then walk past me?" Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. "Laila, you know I love you," he said quickly. "You're my wife. Today is our day." "That's not what I asked," she replied. Her voice shook a little, but she forced herself to stay calm. "Why did you say those words? And then ask Hannah to dance?" He looked away for a second. "I chose the wrong words," he said. "I just wanted to thank her. She has been in my life for 10 years, always helping, always there. I was nervous. It came out wrong." Laila watched him closely. His answer sounded rehearsed, like something he had prepared in advance. "You didn't say thank you," she said slowly. "You said loved in front of everyone." He took a step toward her. "We all love her," he said. "She's your sister. She's family. You love her too, don't you?" "That's not the same," Laila replied. "You know it's not." Silence fell between them again. "Daniel," she tried once more, her voice softer now. "Is there something between you and Hannah that I don't know about?" His eyes flashed with something, fear, guilt, she wasn't sure. Then he shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "Nothing like that. I would never do that to you." "Then why did she look like she was going to cry while you danced with her?" Laila asked. "Why couldn't she look at me?" He opened his mouth, then closed it again. "She's emotional," he said finally. "Maybe the whole day was a lot for her. She helped with everything. Maybe she just felt overwhelmed." Laila felt a small wave of anger rise inside her. She was not a child. She could feel when people were hiding something. "You could have danced with me first," she said, trying not to cry. "You could have honored her in a speech later. You chose that moment." Our moment, he looked down at the floor, his shoulders tense. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I hurt you. I didn't mean to. Can we please not fight on our wedding night?" She stared at him. She wanted to shout. She wanted to ask 100 more questions, but she also knew this. When someone doesn't want to tell the truth, pushing harder only makes them build a stronger wall. "Fine," she said finally, her voice flat. "We won't fight." He stepped forward and gently hugged her. She stood stiff in his arms, not hugging back. He didn't push it. After a moment, he let go and left the room to talk to the staff. Laila stayed there alone for a while. When she stepped back out to the garden, she saw Hannah near the exit, standing by herself. Hannah's makeup was ruined, and she was wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. When she noticed Laila, she quickly turned away. Laila took a step toward her, then stopped. She could see that Hannah was hurting too, but she did not know why. Was it guilt, shame, something else? Her heart ached, but she turned in the opposite direction. If she talked to Hannah now, it might turn into a scene, and she did not want more eyes on their family. Instead, Laila went looking for her father. She found him sitting alone at a table, rolling his wedding ring slowly around his finger. The hall was almost empty now. Staff were stacking chairs. The music had finally stopped. "Dad," she said quietly. He looked up. His face softened when he saw her. "Yes, Princess?" Laila sat down across from him. For a moment, she just studied his face. The deep lines near his eyes, the tired kindness in his smile. "Earlier," she began, "you told me we'll talk later." He nodded slowly. Saying nothing, she took a breath. "I need to know the truth," she said. "Please don't protect me. Just answer one thing." He leaned forward, his hands clasped together. "Ask," he said. Laila's throat felt dry. Still, she forced the words out. "Did Daniel know Hannah before he met me?" Her father's face changed at once. The color drained from his cheeks. His eyes widened just a little, then dropped to the table. For a long moment, he didn't speak. The room felt completely silent. When he finally looked back up at her, there was something heavy and old in his expression, like a secret he had carried for years. I was hoping, he said quietly, that you would never ask me that. Laila sat very still, watching her father's face. His eyes looked older than she remembered. For a moment he did not answer. He just rubbed his thumb slowly over his ring like he was trying to gather courage from a small circle of gold. "Dad," Laila whispered, "please, I'm your daughter. Don't hide this from me." He let out a long breath. "Yes," he said finally. He knew her before he knew you. The words felt heavy, even though she had already guessed it. "How?" she asked. "What do you mean, when? Why didn't anyone tell me?" Her father looked around the almost empty hall as if he was afraid someone might hear. Then he leaned closer and lowered his voice. "Do you remember," he began slowly, "when Hannah was in the hospital all those years ago?" Laila frowned. "She was sick a lot when we were younger," she said. "Which time?" "The bad one," he replied. "The accident. You were in school. We told you she fell down the stairs." Laila nodded slowly. She remembered that. She remembered her mother's red eyes, the smell of medicine, the way Hannah lay still in bed for weeks. She had always believed the story about the stairs. "She didn't fall," her father said quietly. "She was hit by a car." Laila felt her chest tighten. "What? Why would you lie about that?" "Because," he said, swallowing hard, "we didn't want you to hate the person driving the car." Laila stared at him, her heart beating faster. "Who was driving?" she asked, even though some part of her already knew. Her father held her gaze and answered, "Daniel." Air seemed to leave the room for a second. Layla's hand moved to the table to steady herself. "No," she whispered. "That doesn't make sense. He would have told me. I would have known. He isn't that kind of person." Her father nodded slowly. "He wasn't drunk. He wasn't racing. It was raining that evening. Hannah ran across the road to catch a bus and he didn't see her in time. It was an accident. A real one. But accident or not, she almost died. Images formed in Layla's mind even though she had never seen them. A car, screeching brakes, Hannah's body on the road, blood on the pavement. Sirens, her father continued, his voice heavy. He came to the hospital every day, even when we told him not to. He paid for most of the bills. He sat outside the ICU for hours. He blamed himself for everything. I've never seen a young man cry like that. Laila blinked hard. Why? Why didn't you tell me before we got engaged? Before we got married? Because by the time you brought him home as your boyfriend, her father said, you were already in love with him. And I saw the way he looked at you. It was different. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't duty. It was real. He paused, then added, I asked him privately if he was sure. If he loved you, not just our family. He said yes. Laila pressed her fingers to her lips. So he loved Hannah first? She asked in a small voice. Her father shook his head at once. No, that's not what I'm saying. He never courted her. They didn't date. He didn't send her love messages or buy her flowers. It wasn't like that. He loved her the way a man loves someone whose pain he caused. The way a person loves someone they almost lost because of their own actions. Out of guilt, Laila whispered. Out of guilt, her father agreed. And respect. She forgave him, you know. She once told me, he didn't do it on purpose. I don't want him to suffer forever. Silence settled between them. So tonight, Laila said slowly, when he said, this dance is for the woman I've loved for 10 years. He meant Hannah, the girl he hit with his car. The girl he almost killed. Her father closed his eyes for a second. 10 years, he said quietly. That's how long it's been since the accident. Laila felt dizzy. But why dance with her in front of everyone? She asked, fighting back tears. Why say it like that? Why say loved? He knew how it would sound. He knew how it would look. He knew what people would think of me. Of her. Her father sighed deeply. He's been carrying that weight for a long time, he said. I think in his mind this wedding, this new beginning, he wanted to finally honor her. To say, I see you. I remember what you went through. I don't forget. At my expense, Laila said bitterly. On my wedding day, her father didn't argue. He just looked at her with sad eyes. I told him once, he said quietly, that if he ever married into this family, he must never play with your hearts. That if he chose you, he had to be fully yours. No half-truths, no hidden history. I see now, he added, voice full of regret, that we both failed you. He didn't tell you everything. And I let that silence stay because I was tired of pain and hospitals and old stories. Tears finally spilled from Layla's eyes. So all this time, she whispered, I thought I was building a life from zero. And instead, I walked into a story that started 10 years ago without me. Her father reached out and took her hand. You have the right to be angry, he said. You have the right to ask every question. Just remember one thing, Layla. The person you fell in love with is still the same person. Only now you can see the shadows behind him. She pulled her hand back gently. I need to hear it from him, she said, wiping her face. I need to look him in the eye and hear the whole truth. No more half sentences. No more I chose the wrong words. Her father nodded. Then ask, he said softly. Before this night turns into poison between you. Layla stood up slowly. Her dress felt heavy. Her heart felt heavier. She looked toward the door where Daniel had gone earlier. For the first time since the ceremony, she did not see a perfect husband waiting for her. She saw a man carrying 10 years of guilt, fear, and secrets. And she knew that their real marriage would not begin with a kiss at the altar. It would begin with the conversation she was about to have. Layla walked slowly down the hallway, holding up her dress so she wouldn't trip. The fairy lights outside the glass window still glowed softly, but the magic of the night was gone. She wasn't a bride floating on happiness anymore. She was a woman walking toward a hard truth. She found Daniel near the entrance talking to one of the staff members about payments. His jacket was off, his shirt slightly open at the neck. When he saw her, his face brightened for a second, like a habit he could not switch off. Hey, he said softly. Everything okay? Your father looked a bit serious when he passed by. Layla looked at him carefully. My father told me about the accident, she said quietly. The small smile on Daniel's face disappeared at once. For a moment, he didn't breathe. His hands, which had been holding his wallet, froze. The staff member looked between them, felt the tension, and quietly stepped away. Daniel swallowed. He told you everything? He asked. He told me enough, she replied. That you hit Hannah with your car, that you paid for her treatment, that you sat outside the ICU for hours, that you've carried this for 10 years. Daniel lowered his head. I wanted to tell you, he said, so many times, but every time I tried, I saw your face, your trust. I got scared. Scared of what? Laila asked. Of me? Or of losing the good image you have in front of me? He looked up, his eyes already wet. Scared of losing you, he said simply. Scared of turning your family into my enemy. Scared you would look at me and only see the accident, not the man I became after it. Layla's voice was calm, but her hands were trembling. So instead of trusting me with the truth, she said, you let me marry a stranger. Because that is how I feel right now, Daniel. Like I don't know who I married. I'm still me, he whispered. The man who made you tea when you were sick. The man who helped you prepare for job interviews. The man who walked with you in the rain because you said it calmed your mind. And also, she added, the man who has loved my sister in his own way for 10 years. He winced, like her words had cut him. It was never romantic, he said quickly. Never, please believe that. I never looked at her the way I look at you. But she almost lost her life because of me. Every birthday she had after that felt like a gift I didn't deserve to see. I carried that feeling inside me for years. Layla thought of Hannah's face during the dance, how she had looked like she wanted to disappear. Why did you say it like that tonight? Layla asked. Why those words? The woman I've loved for 10 years. Why not say, this dance is for someone who forgave me for a mistake that changed both our lives? Why not tell the truth instead of making us all look like we're in some twisted love triangle? Daniel ran a hand through his hair, frustrated with himself. Because I am an idiot, he said honestly. Because I took 10 years of pain and tried to fix it in one dramatic moment. I thought giving her that dance would be a way of saying, I remember. I honor your pain. I didn't think about how it would sound. I didn't think about how it would crush you. He wiped his face with his sleeve. I hurt the two women I most wanted to protect in the world. On the same night. For the first time, Layla heard the same heaviness in his voice that she had seen on her father's face. 10 years of silence. 10 years of trying to live a normal life with a memory that never left. Did you ever wish, she asked quietly, that it was her instead of me? That you had met her as a woman first, not as a victim of your mistake? He shook his head strongly. No, he said. Please understand this. I never imagined a future with her. I imagined a future where she could walk without pain, where she could smile again. That's different. When I think of growing old, of sharing a home, of fighting over bills and laughing over silly things, it's always been you. Only you. Tears rolled down Layla's cheeks. This time she didn't hide them. So what do we do now? She asked. We can't pretend this night didn't happen. We can't pretend your words didn't cut me. I don't know how to just walk into a hotel room with you and act like everything is fine. Daniel nodded. I don't expect you to, he said. If you want to go home with your parents tonight, go. If you want space, I'll give it to you. If you decide you can't stay married to me, I will sign whatever you want. You owe me nothing. I'm the one who kept the secret. I'm the one who spoke without thinking. He took a small step closer, but not too close. All I ask, he said softly, is that you don't make your decision in anger. Give yourself time. Ask me anything. I will answer everything from now on. No more secrets. Layla was quiet for a long moment. She thought about the boy who sat in the same corner of the coffee shop with his books, the man who had held her hand through job failures and health scares, the same man who had also stood outside a hospital door 10 years ago, begging a doctor to save a girl he didn't even know. Finally, she spoke. I'm not leaving you tonight, she said, but I'm also not pretending that everything is okay. I'm hurt. I'm angry. I feel, like I walked into someone else's story. It will take time for me to feel safe again. I understand, he whispered. We will go to the hotel, she continued. We will sleep, and tomorrow we will talk again. With clear heads. With Hannah, with my parents, all of us. No more half-stories in separate rooms. Daniel nodded, his shoulders relaxing just a little. Thank you, he said, for not walking away without a word. She looked him in the eye. This marriage, she said quietly, will not be built on secrets. If we stay together, it will be because we faced every ugly thing and chose each other anyway. Not because we closed our eyes, he gave a small, broken smile. That's all I want, he said. The chance to be honest and still be allowed to love you. Layla took a deep breath. Her heart was still heavy. The pain was still fresh. But under all of that, there was a small, fragile hope, like a candle in a dark room. Maybe love was not about perfect wedding days and smooth speeches. Maybe real love began on nights like this, when two people stood in the middle of their biggest mess, looked at each other honestly and said, we're not done yet. And as they stepped outside together into the cool night air, Layla knew one thing. Whatever happened next, it would be real.